This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Play down the left and Moy stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. 1-2 wicket Tunga. Here's Moy, right-footed. 1-0 Huddersfield Town. Lindelof misses his header. De Quattro's in. Round De Gea. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. Here's Sanka to turn it into the pass. Yes! And Tommins scored. Tommins has scored one of the most important goals of Huddersfield Town's history. De Quattro's forward. De Quattro's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Quattro scores. Laurent De Quattro scores.
Welcome to Andy Takes That Chance to Warm Up episode 2, the preview show that provides the side lunge until you feel that deep sweet burn in your groin. Coming up today, we preview the game against Wycombe Wanderers, and in with me, the Stretch Master General, Matt Shaw. Opening his gate is Brady Frost, and performing the straddle squat is Chris Markham, all done socially distant, of course. Good evening, chaps.
Evening, mate.
Evening.
Right, okay, so just a quick note just to say that the Stoke and Wycombe reviews will be covered in a live episode, which will be on Tuesday the 24th at 9:30pm. So I'll just say the date for those if you listen before or after the Wycombe game. So that will be up on Tuesday evening. So Wycombe Wanderers. Town never played Wycombe at Leeds Road. One of the little anomalies that I've picked up. Indeed, our first meeting with the Chairboys was in the first game ever at the new stadium, or the Sir Alfred McAlpine Stadium as it was known back then, in which Wycombe beat us by 1-0 on the 20th of August 1994. And then in the away game, completed a double in December. So any points for who got that opening goal at the stadium? Anybody remember? Simon Garner. And I've just said in our other WhatsApp chat as well, he sent his son as a double agent to stop us from getting promoted in 2011 as well. Although I did quite like Joe Garner, he just never got the ball on the net. But anyway, so since then, since December 94, Town are unbeaten in 8 matches, having won 6 of them, and indeed have won the last 4. So a memorable game for us to look back on is the last meeting between Huddersfield Town and Wycombe in January 2012, where Town went down to Adams Park and won 6-0, thanks to 5 goals in one game by this man, Jordan Rhodes.
Forward for it, and it's there. It's Oscar Goban, and Huddersfield have the early lead. Just 10 minutes on the clock, and Goban scores just his second goal for the club. The defender on the line couldn't keep it out, and Goban's header from Roberts' corner gives Huddersfield the early lead. That's into space for Jack Hunt, who's well advanced here. It's a good ball in, it's Jordan Rhodes, it's 2-0 Huddersfield. Well, he just can't stop scoring. Jordan Rhodes again, it's number 22 of this season already. And it was a fairly straightforward, side-footed finish after a well-timed run in between the Wycombe defence to capitalise on an excellent ball in here from the fullback Jack Hunt. For Rhodes to chase. Strong play from Jordan Rhodes, he will get there, can he finish? Of course he can! This is Jordan Rhodes we're talking about. It's 3-0 Huddersfield. We've only been playing 25 minutes, but they're almost out of sight already. The second of the game for Jordan Rhodes, just shrugged off the defender Grant Basie to score. Looked second favourite at one stage, but he was just too strong for Basie, and then picked out the bottom corner. Rhodes could be in again, Jordan Rhodes for the hat-trick. It's saved by Nicky Bull, but back to Rhodes, and that is the treble. It's 4-0 Huddersfield, and Jordan Rhodes again in front of the watching scouts from the Premier League. Well, with every goal, his valuation will only increase. Huddersfield insist he's not for sale this season. He could be the man to take them into the Championship. He's taken them well clear here. It's his 24th goal of the season. 3 of them have come tonight. We're only 4 minutes into the second half. 4-0. Danny Ward in some space. He's quickly closed down, but he's still going. He's Danny Ward, and he gets his shot away. Parried only to that man, Jordan Rhodes again. He has 4, and Huddersfield Town have 5. Incredible. Again, it was a straightforward finish. The Danny Ward shot had been parried straight to his feet. He was in the right place at the right time again. That is no coincidence. For the second time this season, Jordan Rhodes scores 4 goals in a game. And this is getting embarrassing for Wycombe. Here come Huddersfield again. Here's Jordan Rhodes again. Of course he is. He has 5, and Huddersfield goes 6-0 in front. Well, he's gone one better than his 4-goal haul against Sheffield Wednesday last month. This is quite incredible. Running out of superlatives now to describe this performance in front of goal. It's 12 goals in 5 games in just 3 weeks for Jordan Rhodes. Certainly giving the watching scouts something to think about.
Okay, Chris, you must have some memories of that game down at Adams Park that night.
Yeah, it was one of the better away days when I was there. Obviously, it's one of those games where I think it was on telly, wasn't it? So it was one of I think they were hoping for a bit of an upset, and obviously when you get the first, was it Oscar Goulburn scored the first?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
From a header, from a corner or something. We couldn't believe that. But and then Jordan, then that was when he was at his peak. Everything he touched turned to gold that night. So yeah, it was a really good one. Then the coach on the way back with those ones are always good.
Brady, set the scene then. Wycombe. So this is 8 years ago. So we've not played Wycombe since. So let us know how they've been doing since.
I want to hear more about the coach trip, to be honest, Matt. But so Wycombe, they're 22nd in the table with 8 points, but they're not here to make up the numbers. They lost the first 7 league games, and again there was one point where people thinking, do they pick up a point at all? But they've got some respectable draws recently against Watford and Brentford, just gone this Saturday, and they've beaten Birmingham Wednesday. Heading into this game, they've actually only lost 1 match in their last 5, and for me, this is exactly the type of team Huddersfield don't really want to play. I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but the kind of change in form is down to really Adebayo Akinfenwa, their striker. He's coming to the side and kind of giving them that focal point they've been missing. He's not, again, we'll talk about it briefly, but he's a bit of a disruptor in style of play, and he'll unsettle the defence, and obviously he's he's a great character off the pitch as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I spoke to George from the Wycombe Way, who, again, we'll hear earlier. He made no bones about it, really. They're happy to play Route 1 football and defend deep. If you look at their possession, I had a quick look at their possession in their home games this season. They're averaging 36%. So again, it's going to be another game where they soak up pressure and Town have to break them down. So it's going to be a difficult game, as I'm sure you two will go on to explain.
Yeah, so the strengths and weaknesses of Wycombe. So Brady, you've given us a good heads up there. From my perspective, looking at this, Wycombe look like a physical side who will sit in that low block and play very direct from both fullbacks. Lots of energy in the side to press. Town typically don't like that. We saw against Stoke on Saturday that anybody that presses is in that defensive midfield region. Jonathan Hogg and both Carroll Eiting struggled when pressed by a number 10, and Wycombe have been lining up in a 4-3-2-1 system. So almost effectively two number 10s, if you like. Bit of a Christmas tree formation, if you remember Terry Venables' England side back in 1994-5, around that time. So yeah, Town have a bit of a tendency to get bullied, I would imagine. Second balls in particular, we saw against Stoke. We did struggle with that. We conceded twice off second balls against Stoke, and that's Wycombe's game. But Wycombe will pack the middle of the park, I would imagine, and Town will perhaps struggle to break through, and then Wycombe will look to sort of knock it long and feed Akinfenwa and play off of him. But I'd be interested to know how you'd see that as well, Chris, from what you've seen. How would you look at Wycombe and how they will set up, and how will they look to hurt us in particular?
Yeah, I think they're going to, like you both say, you don't get any prizes for saying that they're going to sit deep and that they will be a long ball team, direct, physical. I think that's pretty obvious. I think one thing, though, you can fail to realise is that just they've had by far the lowest possession in the league this season, but they aren't bottom of the league for shots per game. They've had more shots than Stoke, Reading as two teams, there's a few more as well. So the idea that this is going to be an easy game, if there's any Town fans out there, thinking that, right, this is Wycombe, if we don't win here, it's trouble. It's going to be hard. This, it's Watford and Brentford have only picked up points against them recently, so they'll have some good momentum behind them, and they'll have that good team spirit at the moment. Which on a Tuesday night at home, it's not going to be the best of weather on the start, so it is going to be a really tricky game. The other thing that I feel we've not mentioned, and maybe come on to, I know we will in a moment, is the set play element. The set plays in and around the box, set plays, corners, everything's going to be going in there, and it's going to be a massive effort. Even that they'll really be playing for set plays, and it sounds like a cliche, but they absolutely will. So for me, it's such a team not to underestimate. They are going to sit behind the ball and soak it up. But one interesting thing, I had a look at a few of the goals conceded. When they do commit bodies forward and do play direct, there is strangely that they can be exposed on the counter-attack. It's not often, but when you do get those opportunities in this league, they'll get punished more. And I think that earlier on in the season, they were getting punished more for those committing bodies forward, whereas maybe they didn't last season in League One. So be interesting to see how they go. The other thing I don't subscribe to, finally, is that if we get an early goal, it'll be a walkover. Obviously, I hope we do get an early goal if it is a walkover, but I think there'll be a team that's comfortable to be behind. I think other than a 5-0, I think they lost to Blackburn, every game's been tight. So even if we go up early, I don't think they're just going to fold. I think there'll be a team that's happy to almost play for goal difference, play to keep it tight, and be happy if they nick something. So it's going to be a really interesting one, I think. Really interesting if obviously it's depending how everything pans out, weather-wise and fitness for a few of the Town players.
So in terms of key players then, so we're looking at players that will make a difference for Wycombe on the night, and I think we picked out the same one, didn't we, Chris? But I've picked out a separate one as well. So you mentioned set pieces, and there's a man who sits on the set pieces who does have a bit of a, to quote cliches, a wand of a left foot, if you like, isn't there?
Yeah, I think Joe Jacobson is a player who is, he comes out, I think he's just quickly looking there, He's fifth highest crosser in the league, and that's from open play. And then he's got the second highest amount of shots created from free kicks, and obviously he's in the top 20 for shots created from from corners as well. Sorry. So he really is. I mean, he's someone who, when we had in the recruitment, we just got into the Championship, and when we were looking at recruiting and some of the stuff, obviously you do your scouting reports and you also do your data analysis, and he's one that always came up near the top of the left back. From a creativity point of view. We just got into the Championship at that stage, so he certainly wasn't someone, but he's someone always at the top of those lists when you look at these players who create from wide areas. He can be got at going the other way. He's certainly not the best defender by any means, and a bit wooden, but he's really become a bit of a talisman for him. He's been there a while now, and he took the pens at one stage and all sorts. So he's going to be a real key for me, both ways, going forward and coming back.
Yeah, so he scored 12 goals last season in a shortened League One season as well. So 3 assists, 12 goals, 3 assists. He sits second as well in the most key passes made by a left back in the Championship, which shows you, that he is a threat going forward. But also, every person who has a strength also has a weakness, and he is the most dribble past left back in the Championship this season. So that's obviously maybe a route that we can exploit. So a player that I've also picked out, I saw him very briefly, admittedly, for Peterborough last year. He's playing centre-back at the minute, called Josh Knight, on loan from Leicester. I think he's a decent player, and maybe one Town should keep an eye on going forward, as well as Dewsbury Hall from Luton. I still think that's a perfect player for us. But yeah, he's a talented centre-back, good with his feet, good size on him as well. And Scott Cashcat as well, hard-working forward, might not look the most talented, but when Huddersfield have the ball in that defensive third, he's going to be the one pressing and trying to cause errors and trying to disrupt things for us and try and disrupt the flow. So they do have players that can hurt us. Strengths and weaknesses of Town as well, Brady. We're looking at, in general and related to Wycombe, how do we combat a Wycombe side, who maybe will sit deep and make it difficult and put bodies in both boxes?
Yeah, I think again, even though they're going to sit deep, I think this is where our pace comes into it. The pace from our strikers. Again, we'll kind of come on to formations, but I think and Benza he's quick in behind. So is Karam. I think that's where we'll kind of get forward. I also think we saw how good Eiting was when he was a bit further forward against Stoke, and I think he kind of, we initially thought he was going to be a 6 when he's brought in, but I actually wonder if he is the answer a bit further forward in the midfield. So I think that's where we can get at him. I think in terms of weakness for us, I mean, if I was Gareth Ainsworth, looks like Dehaney's going to play it right back again, perhaps Stearman. I'm putting Adebayo Akinfenwa in between that space because he'll cause havoc, and I don't think either of them had particularly good games at Stoke. I just Cascade as well, like you say, he kind of causes a bit of havoc himself and picks off Akinfenwa. So I think I'm a bit concerned about that because we've talked about it before, but you can kind of take the stats out of it. But we have quite a small team, and like Chris said, set pieces are key for them. Going long is key for them, and I think this is actually a real like banana peel of a game for us, really.
What do you think, Chris? What do you think? How do we combat Wycombe, and how do we get around that sort of defensive low blocker in a potentially blustery, wet Adams Park?
Yeah, one thing I've seen when they are defending that low block doesn't mean that they're not the best organised and structurally best low block. To be fair, there are better ones out there. They probably make up for it with their sort of tenacity and other bits, rather than being like structurally sound, if you like. You can actually get, if you play quickly against teams like that, when I've looked at some of the goals and chances conceded from other teams, just at obviously a high level, not as much as the team have done, but in terms of if you move it quickly and get the ball out into wide areas, they've conceded quite a lot of goals when it's been switched, quick 1 and 2 touch play and then crosses into the box. And actually for a team that's come up from League One, that good at defending crosses. So I think wide areas, strangely getting balls into the box just as they're going to do. If we work it into better areas and don't just cross from anywhere, I think that could really cause them problems.
So key players for us then moving into this game. Who are you looking to make the difference in this specific game? So I'll go with you first, Chris, because I went Brady first last time.
Yeah, I'm going Pereira, keeper. If he does play, I've seen something potentially, I think it was one of the New York Post summit saying that he might not do. From a mental perspective, how he recovers from the other day, he's going to be massive. Like, look, they're going to load the box. If I was them, I would be taking every corner, every free kick, every cross. Every time I got an opportunity to put the ball in the box, I'd be getting it in on top of him. He needs to have a demanding game, and he's going to have to soak up a lot of, maybe not shot stopping, but certainly going to have to soak up a lot and take some pressure off the back four, particularly the centre backs.
I'll go next, Brady. So the key player for me is going to be Carol Eiting. If they sit deep, Stoke did from time to time sit deep on Saturday, and I think it's okay having pace in the side. It's okay getting wide, but it's difficult to use that pace when somebody's sat in a low block because it's much more, you've got less space to get behind. And I think Carol Eiting, someone like him, is going to need to have a bit of a commanding game in the middle of the park and dictate the play and find those angles to get people in. And looking at a few things for him, currently, surprisingly, is an 84% pass accuracy is Carol Eiting. And you look at that and you kind of go, But when you think more about that, he's making more risky passes than, say, Jonathan Hogg, who's technically the best short passer in the Championship, or the most accurate at the minute. And Carol Eiting's actually 7th in that list. So that's an interesting thing to look at when he's someone who's going to take more risks and trying to move the ball forward quickly. So for me, Eiting is the person who I'm looking for to make the difference. Brady.
See why you jumped in there, Matt.
I knew you were going to pick him. I had a backup as well. You can have my backup if you want.
No. Well, I'm going to say Lewis O'Brien. Actually, I think his his kind of tenacity and never stops running is going to be key. I also think, you talked about Eiting progressing the play and making those kind of killer passes. O'Brien is capable of that. I think of the Preston game when he set it on a plate for Campbell, although there was a bit in behind, and I think he'll he'll really need to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think since he's come back from injury, I think he's actually been quite good defensively, but he's not been able to kind of progress the play forward a bit more. But I think he's played a couple of games now. He's coming into form, and this might be a good game for him actually to make his mark.
I think the other one maybe that we've missed. I think the other one that we've maybe missed, and I was hoping if I didn't go first and someone said mine, but Benza's going to be massive. 2 reasons. Obviously, we've said you can get past Jacobson for fun, hopefully, and deliver some good ball quality in the box and get in good areas, threatening behind like he has been doing recently, but also to double up with Dehaney and try and stop Jacobson going the other way. We'll see, obviously, one of the criticisms of these wingers with Diakabi and himself has been that defensive work rate, and if they don't get that right, it'll be a long night. So, and Benz is almost like a side note for me.
Interesting. Josh Koroma might not be fit for the game, so we may see potentially Adama Diakabi on the other flank, and those two pace-wise, definitely could be interesting on the counter-attack if we get that right. So a new feature. So we've got a new feature whereby which is your suggestion, Chris, whereby we bring a player back from history to play in this game. We've come up with some names in WhatsApp, and a few of them are incredibly dodgy. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw it out to you guys. So what would you like this feature to be called? So the premise of the feature is that it's a player that comes back, you can bring back from whenever to play in this game as a one-off to make the difference to Huddersfield Town. Today, I'm suspecting that we've maybe picked all three, or all three of us have picked the same player, should I say. Right, Brady, who have you picked to make the difference in this game?
Right, I'm really intrigued to see your guys' picks, but I've got backup. But if I'm going first, I'm going to go for the 16-17 season, and I'm going to go for Izzy Brown. I think I was debating between him and Smith Rowe, but I think just kind of remembering and catching up on some of his highlights, he's a lot stronger than Smith Rowe, and he can kind of hold off the ball, and again, he can ride a challenge a bit better, but he also has the quick feet to get out of trouble. Why I'd pick him for this game in particular against Wycombe, he's not afraid to have a shot from distance. He scored a couple of goals from outside the box last season, and I don't think we really have anyone like that. And again, he can pick those kind of killer passes, but he's not afraid to have a go. And I think especially when a team defends deep, sometimes you do need one from outside the box to go in. So yeah, Izzy Brown. Interesting.
We don't have all the same.
Well, Matt, let's hear yours.
Mine's obvious. Mine is Jordan Rhodes. It's a congested penalty box.
Nice.
I see us putting cross after cross in, trying to get the fullbacks in particular, trying to put crosses in. There's one man in a congested penalty box that you want, and that for me is Jordan Rhodes. When we talk about players, we're not talking about that player today. We're talking about the player from the era. So 2012, Jordan Rhodes.
We better be, because mine's not going to be any good tomorrow.
So 2012 Jordan Rhodes. I did have a backup, and my backup, just in case Brady went for Rhodes, was Craig Maskell. He was it was a toss up between him and Duncan Shearer, but I never actually got to see Duncan Shearer because I'm not that old, thankfully, just yet. But Craig Maskell was one of the very first.
Don't use them all. Don't be telling us all your picks.
No, well, I might bring them back in a week. I'm sure not that many people listen that carefully to me, so I'm sure I can get away with it. But so Jordan Rhodes for me. Fox in the congested box is my reasoning. What about you, Chris?
Obviously, it really relates back to my pick for who I thought would make the actual difference for us tomorrow's game. And I said, obviously, the keeper. So I'm going with a keeper from a bit further back than you guys. Tall and demanding, commanded the box, and it is not Scott Bevan. I'm going Nico Varson. Obviously, someone who remember his debut. Obviously, after everything improved from that after he got sent off so early into it. But I thought he was always someone who would look to dominate. He was tall. He had a good presence about him in the box. I think that command in the box is going to be that important tomorrow. That you're going to need somebody to come out and really take command and take the pressure off the defence at times and organise things well from set pieces and almost be that leader. So yeah, I'm going back to the Belgian.
What's your favourite Nico Vassen moment? I've got a couple. Of memories from Nico Vassen. One in particular was fantastic, and that's when 98-99 season we're away at Valley Parade, and we went 1-0 down, and Bradford were overwhelming favourites. We were on an absolute slump under Jacko. We'd started up quite high in the league and just dropped slowly down, and went to Valley Parade, and obviously we didn't want them to get promoted to the Premier League, and it was about trying to put a little bit of a stop to them getting above their station, if you like, and they went 1-0 up, looked very good. Robbie Blake, excellent player, back then as well, and then all of a sudden we scored 3 goals in about space of 20 minutes at Valley Parade. It just absolutely turned on its head, and then slowly Bradford City came back into the game. Nico Vasson was strong during that, and then towards the end, Simon Baldry handballed in the box, and it's a penalty. 10 minutes to go. And not only does Dean Windass wasn't popular with Huddersfield fans anyway, because I think Bradford gazumped us to sign him in the first place, but he stepped up and whacked it, and Nico Vasson pulls off, and it's like David Seaman in Euro 96, isn't it, with the elbow, and it's an amazing save because Windass absolutely rattles it, and then actually he shouldn't have been on the field either, because he actually elbowed Windass and almost knocked him out about 5 minutes previous to that when Bradford got their second. So he was a hero on 2 levels on that one. And the other one was, for anyone that was there, will remember a 3-2 at home to Bolton Wanderers. I think that season or the one before will remember Nico Vasson's.
I think was he the keeper when we beat Chelsea in the cup as well?
99, yes, he was, yeah.
Yeah, Kenny. Was it Kenny Irons?
Yeah, Kenny Irons with the rasper from 25 yards. Yeah, I was there then. That was a good night. Yeah, good night. But yeah, so we'll move on. So we've had Nico Vasson from Chris, we've had Jordan Rhodes from me, and from Brady we had Izzy Brown. So let us know what you think on the socials as well, who you'd like to bring back. I think it's got a little bit of potential as this feature. So thanks for that. And speaking of potential, earlier today, Brady caught up with George from the Wycombe Way, and here's what George had to say on the upcoming game from the opposition fan perspective.
Running. Okay, so I'm now joined on the line by George from the Wycombe Way. Thanks for coming on, George.
That's quite all right. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So you talk of your account's called the Wycombe Way. So George, what is the Wycombe Way?
The Wycombe Way is a site I run on Twitter for Wycombe fans. It gives news updates, score updates during the game, and just overall Wycombe content for Wycombe Wanderers fans on Twitter.
Cracking. And in terms of your style, what do you see Wycombe style as?
It's very Route 1 up to Akinfenwa. It's always been that way, and it's never really been a game on the floor. It's always been up in the air. We get hounded for it by opposition fans quite a lot, but it's a football we all enjoy watching.
Well, fair enough. There's if it gets results, which it clearly has, then it's not an issue, is it? So, speaking of those results, I wanted to talk a little bit more about your manager, Gareth Ainsworth. I mean, he's got a lot of praise recently, and rightly so. Can you tell us a little bit more as a fan about the job he's done and, how well he's liked by the fans?
I mean, to give it justice, you've really got to go back to when he took over in 2012. We were struggling at the foot of League Two, faced with a possible relegation and then probable liquidation if we'd gone down that season. He turned it around, stayed up on the last day at Torquay, and since then it's just been a gradual rise up the leagues. From the promotion from League Two, I mean, that was a shock enough. No one was expecting that one. And then 2 years later, to go up to the Championship, it still seems very surreal. Every game feels like a cup game, and the job he's done on limited resources. He hasn't really got a budget to work with to compete with other clubs, but it's just all about the togetherness in the squad. I don't think there's many teams in EFL that have what we have in the dressing room, and it does carry you a long way, as it shows on the pitch.
No, definitely. And I mean, I saw the scenes last season when you won the playoff final. Like, you could really sense that dressing room vibe. It was kind of similar to when we got promoted to the Premier League, actually. So, in regards to we touched on the style. What are you kind of expecting from the game on Tuesday against Huddersfield?
I suppose it all depends on the lineup he puts out. It always does every week, because if Akinfenwa's playing up front, then you are going to get that Route 1 style of football. The long balls up to him, and then him winning lockdowns for the wide plays to play off him. But when Akinfenwa does play, he often does take up 2 defenders on his own, which gives players like Horgan and Cash get the space to work in around him. I mean, we've got Dom Gate back from injury as well this week, defensive midfielder. So that's really important, having next to Curtis Thompson, who's really excelled in the midfield this season so far. But there's other game plans as well. You can have Samuel up front, who doesn't like it in the air, but is the same sort of player as Akinfenwa, holds it up to bring others into the game. So, I mean, it really does depend on the lineup. I know that's easily said and done. But, if Akinfenwa plays, you get that long ball up top. If Samuel plays, you get it on the floor, but still the hold up. But then if you put Kashket through the middle, then you're going to get it quick, zippy on the floor with balls in behind to chase.
Yeah, and we're talking about results. Obviously, you kind of touched on it in the match preview you did for us. But it didn't start the best, but you've really picked up some good points recently, most notably this weekend, actually, against Brentford. Do you think it suits Wycombe to play against teams? Because Huddersfield, a bit like Brentford, will want to dominate possession, want to dominate the ball. Do you think that kind of plays into Wycombe's hands?
Absolutely. If you look at the stats, we've never been the team to dominate possession. I think last season, League One, it had the stats on average possession. I think Wycombe were bottom. Long balls forward, we were top. Stats like that, we don't like having the ball. As soon as we get the ball, it's how high up the pitch can we get quickly. And then I suppose we do have a high press as well. So let the other team have the ball in their own half. And then can you press them? Can we get the ball back? And then it's also often quick counters, whether that be long balls or balls over the top. It's the same thing. And Brentford did like having the ball. We combated that well. And the defence is really going to be solid in recent weeks. So even when we haven't had the ball, nice and compact with no gaps in between, which we often gave in the first few weeks of the season. I think the game against Blackburn, far too many gaps in the midfield, and we were punished for it. But recent weeks, definitely the defensive midfield have closed those gaps nicely, and we look a real good Championship side
now. No, I'd agree. You've really come on in such a short space of time, and I suppose the game against Huddersfield. How do you see the game going? What's kind of your prediction?
I'm just hoping we can take our recent form into the game. I think 1 defeat in 5 is good form for any promoted team, especially a club of our size. We'll keep touching on it. We are a small club. In the Championship, it's deep water. But I'm hoping we can carry on in that form and take from the point at Brentford at the weekend. That was a good point. I think we even had chances to win the game. And then if we go back to the win away at Birmingham, they dominated the first 45 minutes. I think we were lucky to go in only at 1-0 down. And then in the second half, a real fighting performance to come away with a win. And I'm expecting the same sort of performance against Huddersfield, expecting Huddersfield to obviously have the ball. But then I think Wycombe will really put up a fight, and hopefully we can get a point or 3 out of the game.
Yeah, and I think I'm a bit worried about this game, George, I've got to be honest, because I think this is exactly the type of team we don't want to play. So I'm going to have to push it for a score prediction. What do you think the score is going to be?
I mean, I've always got to back Wycombe. I am fairly confident. I'm expecting a draw at least, hoping for the 3 points. I'm just going to go safe, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 Wycombe win.
Nice. Well, you've got back your team. I hope you're wrong, but no, that's great. Thanks so much for coming on, George, and best of luck for the rest of the season for Wycombe after the game, obviously.
No, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, guys, so George has had his say. It's time to have ours now. So this is my new feature now, and this is You're the Coach. So it's not as exciting as yours, I'm afraid, Chris, but you're the coach. I give you the Chris Powell cap to put on, the New Balance and chinos of Carlos Corberan, tight, skinny chinos. And I want you to predict or tell me what the starting lineup is going to be and give me a prediction for the game. So we'll start with you. Who wants to start? Brady, your lips are moving already.
Brady could go.
I was going to say, you're not giving Chris a top there, so he's going to be shirtless.
Well, you know all about that, don't you?
Well, yeah, no, all too well, unfortunately. I think we'll line up 3-5-2. I think Schindler, Starr, and Stearman, again, they're going to be kind of causing havoc. I talked about Akinfenwa. I think we kind of need a bit of height and a bit of, people who are up for it. Again, I'd have Dehaney as right back. I don't think he had a particularly good game, but I don't really think we have any options. I know Edmonds Green can play there, but I feel he's better at a centre back, to be honest. Then I'd have a midfield of Eiting, Hogg, and O'Brien. I think I'll kind of touch on it, but I think for me at the moment, Bacuna could do quite well in this game, but I think it's as a super sub. And again, Toffolo's kind of your wing back. If Karoma's not fit, I did have him initially in this, but I think I'd play him Benza and then probably Campbell. Again, I know Campbell again isn't a prolific goal scorer, but I think what he does for the team is good. Like, drawing the fouls, winning, using his experience, and I think that might be key in this game. And again, subs, I think Bacuna, like I say, I think he can make a real impact off the bench. Just give him kind of a free roll depending on how the game's going, and again, bring on Ward. I think biggest call's a keeper, but for me, Pereira has to start if Hamer's not fit. Just because he had one shocking game, he needs to play into form, and he's played for the B team, whereas Schofield hasn't played as much as him. Did you want my score prediction now?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be confident with this one, just because we've got Borough at the weekend, and I'm not confident about that. But I think we're going to win this 2-1. I think quality is going to win against a team defending for their lives.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into as many details as that, I don't think. I'm going to go for, I think we'll stick with the back four again. I can see your reasoning, though, definitely this week for the back three. I think maybe Shindy comes in for Stearman. I think they'll make a change there, or certainly within one of the centre backs, just to freshen it up. So obviously a lot of games going to be coming up between now and Christmas. Like you say, it may be Bacuna, but I think if Eiting hadn't had such a good game and been so influential the last couple of games, this is one Bacuna might have come in for, but I'd maybe stick with the midfield three as it was. I'd play Wardy. I think this would be the sort of game he'd really excel in. Obviously make his full debut second time round. His energy may be a bit fresher, and obviously I think his skill set he's really underrated in the air, Wardy, and having seeing what they're, like I mentioned earlier, the defending crosses, I think Wardy could be dangerous from that. So yeah, I'd have Wardy in. Like I said, I think Benza will be important, so I'd play in Benza against Jacobson. My prediction is going to be again really tight. I think we'll hopefully edge it 1-0. They've obviously come into a bit of form, but they've still only scored 3 in their 6 home games. So we've scored in our last 5 away games. So I think we'll score. I think it'll be 1-0, and I think it'll be a really good 1-0 if we manage to get it. Matt.
Okay, yeah. So what I would do, so in my team, I look at the goalkeeper and I look at Pereira, and taking out Pereira's game against Stoke, I would always go with Schofield anyway, because Schofield is our goalkeeper and he's someone that we've got an eye on as our number one for the future. So if Schofield's 100% fit and Carlos Corberan's happy with the minutes that he's played, then I would always go for Ryan Schofield. But if not, and he's not up to speed, then Pereira it is. So one of the first changes I would make to freshen things up is Stearman. I've stuck up for Stearman quite a lot this season. I think he's had some undue and unfair stick, but lately he's a couple more mistakes are creeping in, and I think that position might need freshening up just to take him out for a bit before bringing him back in, and Schindler would come back into partner Naby Sarr. Naby Sarr is going to be very key in this game, aerially as well with the size on him. Toffolo at left back as always, and Jonathan Hogg in front of them. At right back, I'll be honest, I'm not a big Dehaney fan. I'm not going to tear into him or anything, but if Edmonds Green is fit, I would go Edmonds Green at right back in a game like this. I think Romani could offer quite a lot defensively and going forward. But if he's not ready, then I might be tempted to throw Juninho Bacuna in at right back. I realise that could be a very risky move, but he offers a lot of quality in terms of balls in from out wide as well. And he plays that false fullback role really well, where he comes in and somebody drifts out. So I think Bacuna might be an option there, but that also might be an impact sub option as well, like they tried against Stoke. O'Brien and Eiting in the middle, obviously, and Benza has to play for me at the minute. He's the winger on form in the last 3 or 4 games. Karoma. If Karoma's not fit, then it's probably we're lacking options, aren't we? So it's going to have to be Diakabi if Karoma's not fit. And then Danny Ward up front is the other change for me as well. I think Ward, again, he's probably not got the minutes under his belt, but everybody's flagging at the minute, even though there's been the international break. Campbell's looked a little bit off it the last 2 or 3 games. So again, freshen things up, put Ward in, refocus Campbell and bring him on as a sub later on in the game. So that's for me. Prediction-wise, again, I go with what Chris says. It's going to be a really tight game. It feels almost like, looking at December and the games coming up, it feels like this might be almost not a 6-pointer or anything daft like that, but it feels like a game that we really could do with winning. And because it feels like a game that we could do with winning, the negative thoughts are creeping in. So I'm actually going to go 2-1 to Wycombe. I just don't think we handle the direct balls, diagonal balls into the box very well in the second balls. And I've just worried of people picking things up off Akinfenwa, and balls coming in from that diagonal. But if Naby Sarr can get on top of him, not literally or figuratively, then that should be the platform to build from the back. So I'm going to go 2-1 Wycombe, but obviously it could go any way, this one.
Yeah, interesting. At least we've picked different scores this week.
Yeah. And speaking of this week, that is it for this week. So thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the warm-up. Get involved. Let us know how you think this game will go. And also remember as well, let us know what that feature should be called. We've got a couple of dodgy ones so far. Terminator was obviously one that was rejected early on. So let us know what you guys think, and what we'll do is we'll probably put the best ones to a vote later on, and then pick it from the vote. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll be back tomorrow night celebrating a 3-point victory.
Oh, what a night! Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored. It was a effing dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight, St. George's Square to see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance.